I just wanted to do a quick introduction. Paul is from P&G and has been working with Box for many years, and he has given a lot to our company, both guidance in what to do first and how to build our product, how to add security features that enterprises need, and it has been incredibly helpful for us to grow and mature as a company with all of his help. So with that said, we're super excited to have him talk about user adoption in P&G. Thank you so much.
Yeah, hi, everybody. I'm in Procter Gamble's Global Business Services organization. So that's our shared services organization, and we serve 130,000 employees at P&G. So in this context, I'm the My Files Anywhere initiative manager. I'll tell you a little bit more about that. In general, I want to talk a little bit about very brief background, because I know I'm between you and your lunch, so about P&G and GBS, about why P&G needed a solution like Box, and then some of our challenges and recent successes. So at a glance, we have operations in 80 countries. Our brands are sold in 180 countries, over 180 countries. We serve 4.4 billion consumers on an annual basis, and our sales are, last fiscal, were 82.6 billion. And most people don't know us by P&G. Most of you know us by what you used this morning getting ready to come down here, the Braun shaver or Gillette razor or Olay or any of our other billion-dollar brands. So we have $24 billion brands. That's where 90% of our sales and profits come from. So getting a little bit at why Box. So about 6 months ago, our CEO, Bob McDonald, gave the company, not just shared services or IT, the challenge, but the whole company as being the world's most technologically enabled company, and the first major corporation to digitize end-to-end. So he'd say from consumer to shelf, from shelf back to the consumer. Within the shared service organization, that translated into to 4 basic pillars. First, the digital is digital business intelligence. Secondly is the digital value chain. That's really that getting that consumer understanding, building it into a product, getting that product on the shelf, making sure your manufacturing orders are there, that you don't run out of inventory in the store. Digital consumer engagement, which is really around mining the blog sphere, mining all the data that we get from consumers when they call in and say that their diaper's leaking, or worse. I know that's hard to imagine sometimes. And then the digital organization, which is where I fit into to GBS. That's really focused on enabling employees to work from to their peak performance from anywhere. I guess not to be redundant, but although Box fits into a lot of those categories, I think especially when there's not a systemic enterprise ERP solution or something like that in place for that area, it can fit into a lot of those categories, but specifically in the digital organization, we really see Box as being an enabler for the individual employee. And our goals of going digital and the digital employee are driving an open and digitally savvy culture, growing technical skills, and driving lifelong learning around technologies. So I introduced myself before as the My Files Anywhere solution manager, because we brand everything at P&G. That's what's My Files Anywhere. It's Box plus everything else that we wrap around Box to provide a systemic service. So that would be our first first level call center support provided by HP, who's our enterprise IT provider. It's single sign-on, also provided by HP. It's our cross-charging mechanisms internally for moving the money around. It's training, support, a lot of other things. Our equity for My Files Anywhere today, although it changes quite frequently, is simplifying your daily work with one tool for file storage, sharing, backup, and I'd add to that collaboration, external collaboration, and transforming the way your files are accessed to increase your personal productivity. So I guess a little bit about our use case. I think a lot of customers that are here today have a very specific use case. I mean, it might be your sales organization or your contract law group or something like that, and a particular work process. But for us, it's a very general use case. I mean, there are some emerging high-value use cases, but it's up to the employee. And we're making that transition from the early adopter phase to the majority. So I guess some of the ways we've got that out, I guess, some of the channels that we've deployed via have been our Windows 7 deployment. So we've deployed Windows 7 to about 30,000 users to date. And as part of that commercialization, which also has a brand, Open and Go, Open and Go PC, that's they're presented with the option of signing up for Box.net for My Files Anywhere. We've also made it an option as part of our hardware replacement process. So every year we replace 33,000 PCs, and when you configure your PC and decide whether you want a solid state drive, you can also sign up for My Files Anywhere. And then last but certainly not least is our mobility platform. So we have a large number of iOS users today, both iPad and iPhone users. And as we provide supporting documentation for what are our recommended apps, how users can connect to VPN on their iOS device, they also see here's Box.net, here's the Box app, here's how I sign into that using my single sign-on credentials. And I'm also working on making that an option during the ordering experience. So they order an iPad, they see, oh, I can sign up for Box at the same time in their mobile device portal. So we talked a little bit about this in the other room, but I guess the point I'm trying to make here is there's a legacy software stack in the enterprise, and so users are familiar with SharePoint. They're familiar with FTP and large file transfer programs today. They're familiar with backup, whether that's a server-based backup solution or an external hard drive backup solution. Certainly familiar with email and file storage services, whether that's a NAS device or NetWare or a Windows server. But when you present Box to them, it looks like a different part of the elephant. I mean, to use that old story, you really have to understand their pain points. So that's hard to do when you're communicating to 130,000 people, plus all the contractors, plus all the external collaborators that you might be working with. So that's a challenge, but a big opportunity too.
What do you think would be the biggest consequence of withdrawing any of those technologies?
Biggest consequence of withdrawing them?
Well, not email, but I'm thinking of SharePoint, FTP file transfer, backup, or file storage. I mean, it does feel like those are pretty redundant with Box. Is that fair or is that not fair?
No, in a lot of cases it's very fair. I think, I guess the one that's been ingrained in my head is what's the cost of the network. So when you look at our wide area network bandwidth, I mean, going into a research center where you've got a lot of PhD engineers, we've probably got adequate bandwidth. Going into a plant in on a remote island in the Philippines, that might be a different story. So, I think understanding the cost to the network is a big story today. Trying to figure that out. And then also there's a lot of hidden costs, like with, I mentioned to someone this morning, FTP servers. A lot of FTP servers are used today in collaborating with external agencies, marketing agencies. While that's part of what you pay whenever you buy Oral-B toothbrushes. It's a hidden cost that the marketing company passes on to me. I can't necessarily see the value of taking that server down. Although I certainly can from a controls and a security perspective. So you just have to take the time to describe what the value is. Some of the challenges we've overcome, I think recently we've begun deployment in the EU and Switzerland. So that took us about 6 months to really get past that. And the main way we've done that is by excluding personally identifiable information at this time. Also, I think one of the challenges we're up against.
How did you overcome that?
So, I guess to the second bullet point, we have an end user agreement in place today. That's what EUA means. So all of our users have to complete an end user agreement where they agree to the terms of the service. So they agree to not store PII on box today. So that allowed me to move forward with the EU and Switzerland. So I know, and honestly, I think the biggest need for box in the EU, particularly as we're looking at the 2012 Olympics campaign and things like that, is project management. It really doesn't matter so much that you can't store employee or consumer data out there. So it's not a huge concern to us. It's more of it's something we need to continue to work on as the cloud evolves. And I guess I was making a point earlier about the end user agreement, but today we've a lot of the natural viralness that's built into Box that you heard about in the other room. We've broken that process today because we have an end user agreement, because I add people to a federated security group to give them access. So Box is working hard on trying to get me a solution at the end of this calendar year, hopefully, where I can bring back that viral adoption by moving my end user agreement into the Box interface.
How are you managing policy enforcement in that? So just because is it a very strict agreement like termination, or is it just guidelines?
It's I think the specific language in the agreement is it could include up to termination. So yeah, if they don't follow it, I think first threat would be, okay, I'll take your account away. But then secondly, it could lead up to that.
And are you doing searches in the back end to ensure that kind of information isn't in the tool today?
No, not doing any of that at this point in time. And I don't think from a data privacy perspective that I could do that in some countries. I know in France and Germany I couldn't do that. And then I think one of our other challenges is that users today don't always get sync. If you look back at the stack of applications I talked there's nothing equivalent to sync. Maybe with the exception of a backup client, but most users configure a backup client once and they forget about it. They configure it once if we're lucky as IT professionals and forget about it. And before SharePoint 2010, there wasn't anything there in that environment that looked anything like sync. So, I think getting users to understand what's that value. I think clearly iPad users, they get it. They've probably already tried something by the time they find me, and hopefully that was Box. But other users, it takes a while to get that concept across. So we've repurposed some Box videos, used them internally. So we have an internal YouTube site that I've posted that, and I'm using that to market. So I guess in summary, we're a very Box fits a very key strategic need for us in terms of enabling the digital employee. We're a very general use case for Box. I think there are some emerging use cases. Shutting down file servers is certainly one of our goals, if I can find the bandwidth. And also external file sharing with external agencies is a big emerging use case. But in general, I need to do a good job of communicating all the benefits of Box, and at the same time communicating to those specific users about those very specific use cases. So I'm not sure how much time we have. You're the official time.
I got about 10 minutes.
Okay, so we got plenty of time for questions.
I have a few rolling questions. How many users are using Box?
So we've got close to 4,000 today that are currently on it. So it's our goal by the end of our fiscal year, which is end of July, to have 18,000.
And how did you set up your root folder structures and permissions at the groups level for your users?
How do we set up the security and the folders?
Yep.
I'm not controlling folder structure at all. So that's actually one of our challenges. I think some of our the Pampers brand was the first group into Box, and I've heard from them since they've been a user from like 2 years ago. I've heard from them, hey, my data's not so organized. I don't know how to manage this anymore, or it's becoming unmanageable. So I think that is one lesson we've learned, which I think other people have learned, is you want to try to enforce something, but at the same time, in general, I don't. We still market it internally as a personal file sharing tool or a small group file sharing tool.
And are you able to administer the system with that many users? Because we're having issues with administrating the system with 450 users.
Yeah, I mean, I don't do a lot of it.
Maintaining accounts, creating accounts, if we're unable to do that in our system for whatever reason because of the volume of the folder structure. That's what I was trying to figure out. The users and their folder structure.
Yeah, I mean, our federation service spawns the account for me, so that's not a problem. I think we've developed myself and the client management organization have developed a process where weekly I send a list of accounts that have been deactivated from our Active Directory, and they deactivate my accounts for me. So I think we're trying to build some of those standard processes in place. But no, I haven't had any problems with scaling the number of accounts or anything like that. Any particular issues?
Was there any pushback from your legal or compliance team on using the service?
It took us a long while to get our legal folks to come around. I think they go to conferences like this and they hear cloud bad, cloud scary, and that's what they come home with. And and it's a new lawyer every week that would come back with that message. So I think when they realized that there were a lot scarier things out there, I won't mention any names, but when they realized that people were using those services and they were out there and it was a real threat to them, and they'd rather know where their data was and know what the security was rather than taking the risk of not knowing any of those things, that's when they started to come around.
Now, are you doing external collaboration with your customers as well with Box? Like inviting them as collaborators?
There are a couple teams. I know some of the warehouse clubs we share files with through Box.
Have they had issues with their customers not allowing access to the Box domain due to legalities because of the categorization that Box is under? Like we're struggling with a few customers that are unable to take advantage of the collaboration.
Gotcha.
Their IT is blocking it. Do you have that?
No, I think the ones, interestingly enough, it's been the opposite for me. It's been Box employees saying, "Hey, this company really wants to talk to you because they want to collaborate and they want to see if Box is the right platform to do that." So I've had several conversations with both technology partners and brand management companies that Box has helped set up, and because it looks like something safer than what we've done in the past, like unsecure FTP with generic passwords and things like that. So no, I haven't had that much of experience.
Can you talk a little bit about your change management initiatives around this? What did you try? What worked? What didn't?
So I guess the only place I'm enforcing change management today is with Sync. So we use Marimba for electronic software distribution. So I have locked down a specific Sync version, at least on the Windows side.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not talking about the technology change. I'm talking about the people change. So how do you get people to stop using files, shared file system or FTP and start using Box instead?
I'd say, unfortunately, they're probably using both today to some degree. So I haven't shut anything down yet per se. So I think that as I get more users, I'll certainly make some progress on that. But it's really I guess we have had some success with FTP servers, but that's about it. So I think the most of that progress is ahead of us.
You sounded like you're hoping it'll be more viral.
Yeah, I certainly want it to be more viral, and I think there will certainly be some targeted deployments. Yeah.
I think you said that you gave users made it available to users when they're upgrading hard drives or hardware that Box was available.
Mm-hmm.
Are you doing any surveys or looking to why people are not downloading it and installing it and then deploying it in their groups? In other words, are you checking to see sort of what the saturation?
Yeah, why people would turn it down? No, I haven't really done a lot of that. I think well, I guess in the context of Windows 7 deployments, I heard pretty consistently of this whole process is just overwhelming for me. I mean, you're giving me a new operating system. In many cases, they're getting a new Office version that they've never seen before. You're giving me the capability to do my email without VPN, so it's a big bundle that's being deployed to them. So they were like, well, I don't need something else right now. It was probably too much to push at them at one time. So, like the gentleman from AAA, we have a lot of employees that have been around for 35 or 36 years. So, and I think for some of those folks, they're very tied to some of the other technologies. So I think younger technologies and younger employee groups, especially in Asia, pick it up much faster. So.
Is a tablet a standard issue hardware device available across the enterprise?
Yeah, I don't actually work heavily on the mobility services, but no, it's not a standard. I mean, we have standards. So today it's the iPad is our standard tablet, but it's only, what would it be? I mean, it's less than 5% of employees that have one. So yeah.
So what was the business case to justify the larger investment or the larger license investment? Was it faith, or was it because that, like you said, Pampers division was using it, people just kind of latched in? How did you actually, go to the boss and say, hey, I need X grand to make this happen?
Yeah, I think it was certainly that people were already using other cloud services. That was a bigger risk. It was some of these use cases around file storage replacement.
But you're not measuring what that file share. Are you able to measure how many people are getting off those systems, even though you're not shutting them down? Are you able to see volumes?
Yeah, we are certainly measuring how much data is coming off of those systems, when we can start to shut down local servers and things like that. So yeah, we will be able to tell that story. All right. Getting the it's lunchtime signal from the back. So thanks everybody.